This game against the Houston Texans in Houston is very important. Not just for the team, but for all of us fans and our sanity. Let's get into this. Dolphins fans, thank you for coming and checking out the channel. I appreciate it as always, especially while I'm just getting started in this and it's not huge yet. Every one of these views, likes, and comments, it helps out a bunch, so I appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It helps, obviously. I've got a lot of information we got to go through here and covering this game, so I just wanted to get right into it. I made a post, or it was a short, after last week's game against the Jets, and I said, Tua was clutch. Came up big time. Put the team on his back, took us down the field and won the game for us. It was great to see. Well, there's always people that just don't get it. So we have this guy and his comment, which states, in reply to my saying he was clutch, Tua with the clutch drive? Shake my head. 3 screen passes, covering more than half the total yards gained on that drive in OT. Okay, so there's a little bit to unpack there, obviously. Absolutely, it was clutch. That's the literal definition of clutch, is winning a game in overtime that you needed to win absolutely. That's clutch. So stop with the just incessant Tua hate. I don't get it. It's totally unwarranted. It was a clutch win. Was it against a great team? No. But it was a win that we needed to have. It was clutch because it was in freaking overtime. Not to mention him driving us down the field to get us the field goal to go to overtime. Not to mention him driving us down the field before that to get a touchdown that we desperately needed. Or none of it would have even mattered. We would have lost. The whole fourth quarter and the overtime was clutch by Tua. Fight me on this. So I replied and said that, and I also he said 3 screens for half the yardage. Well, that's not true. It was 2 screens, and let's go through the list here. It was 2 screen plays, then a 11-yard pass, then a 15 or 16-yard pass, then a 10-yard pass. And the 10-yard pass at the end was the touchdown pass that threaded 2 defenders. And if the ball was a foot to the left or a foot to the right, it was not caught or it was intercepted. That is the definition of a clutch drive by a quarterback. All pass plays, all perfect passes, throwing to the places that you needed to throw. Yes, there were 2 screens, not 3, like you said. But that's the definition of clutch, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't understand that, I don't know what to tell you. Whether you hate Tua or you love him, or if you're in the middle like I am, I can admit when the man did something great. That was great. Couldn't do much better than that. So, moving on. I just wanted to talk about that real quick. You're going to see those kind of comments in every video, every chance these people get. Because they feel like because people aren't listening to them that they need to keep screaming it at the top of their lungs every opportunity in hopes that someone goes, yeah, you're right. Well, not on my channel. When Tua's playing like he's playing, I'm not going to be throwing hate that man's way. There is plenty of other things on our team that we need to be worried about. Right now, the last 7 games since Tua's been back from his concussion, quarterback play is not the issue. If you're going to sit there and try to tell me that it is the issue, send me some of the drugs that you're taking, please. I don't understand the logic. Let's talk about the logic. So, let's pop this up. Tua, in the last 7 games since coming back from his concussion, 15 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 76% completion percentage. That's perfect. That's great. I mean, you almost can't expect or ask any more than that. That's wonderful quarterback play. No matter how you look at it, no matter what you're examining, what stats you're looking at, what quarter of the game you're looking at, what game you're looking at, it doesn't matter. Tua's been doing over 70% and no interceptions almost every single game. It's unreal. So, and also we have this. This is from Joe Shad. He posted it on Twitter a couple days ago, and I didn't know this. I thought it was pretty cool, so I wanted to share it. There it is. Tua Tagovailoa has completed 70% or better of his passes in the last 7 games. Only one player has ever had 8 consecutive games in a season with 70% or better. That man is Joe Montana. Am I saying Tua is better than Joe Montana or as good as Joe Montana? No. But that's a heck of a stat to have, and he's about to get there because if he keeps playing the way he's playing, it's going to happen on Sunday against the Texans. Let's talk about this game. It's like I said, it's a must-win. Absolutely have to have it. It's against a good team, so all the Tua haters and all the people who say we can't win against good teams, well, here's their chance to either scream at the top of their lungs again that they were right, or here's the time when they shut up. I can't, have any say in this, but I know what I want. I'm a Dolphins fan. I want the Dolphins to smoke them. I want to win. I'm sure the Dolphins want to win too. The Houston Texans are a good football team. Are they having their struggles? Yeah, they have their struggles just like any other team does. And we'll get into all the stats and their rankings and all that stuff, and I'll talk about the keys to victory, and we'll talk about the injury report and everything else. So the bottom line is this game is super important for both teams. Super important. The Texans are trying to confirm a playoff spot and lock down their division. The Colts are sniffing at their heels. And we'll talk about some of those games that we need to be watching with interest this Sunday and this weekend as well. Because there's a lot of things that we need to watch aside from the Dolphins game. Obviously, the first and foremost thing is the Dolphins need to take care of business. They need to win their game. And if they do that, then there's other things this Sunday that we need to watch and hope for and root for. Let's talk about the injury report. I guess we'll do that first. That seems to be the most pertinent information. So for the Texans, the did not practices were Jalen Petrie. He has a chest injury, and he's a defensive back, obviously. And then offensive lineman Juice Scruggs. From what I know, they're talking about Juice Scruggs playing in this game. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. We'll see. He's not really that great. He's an NFL player, so he's good, but I don't know if he's that great comparatively. Jalen Petrie is most likely out. I think it was confirmed today that he's out, but I'm not positive. Don't get me lying to you. Limited participants in practice was Joe Mixon. He had a rest day, so he's going to be playing. Kenyon Green, offensive line, he's got a shoulder injury. He was limited. Foley Fudukasi he was limited as well, and Christian Harris and Jamal Hill. That's a defensive lineman and 2 linebackers that are all limited this week. I would expect most of them to play, but just keep in mind that middle linebacker position and defensive line is slightly injured, so it could benefit us in what we have to do to win this game. Full practice participants for them were Xavier Hutchinson and Danico Autry. They'll both be playing. I wouldn't expect anything there. Robert Woods, Laramie Tunsil, and Nico Collins were all had rest days this week, so expect them to play. They always seem to play anyway, so especially now Nico Collins is back. They're just keeping them healthy and resting them. And they did have a bye week, so they're coming off a bye to face Miami. So for Miami, our did not practices were Teron Armstead, D. Eskridge, Kendall Lamb, and Jordan Poyer, and Calais Campbell and Odell Beckham Jr. all had rest days and did not practice. Now, Teron Armstead had his knee injury. I'm not sure if he's going to play in this game. I guess we'll see what's going to happen there. D. Eskridge, honestly, who cares? Kendall Lamb, I want him to be back. I really do. We'll see. He's been out recently. He still did not practice, but he's not on injured reserve. So I would expect him to trickle back in at some point. And Jordan Poyer was a rest day. I wouldn't worry about him. Limited participants. Bradley Chubb is still practicing and doing well. No setbacks. Grant DeBose is back into limited practice, which I would expect Grant DeBose to play this week. A lot of people don't know him, but he has a lot of upside. He's a good route runner. Got good hands. He's got a bigger body. And we do need wide receivers like that occasionally. So I would expect him to play or at least be available, which is a good thing. Cameron Good practiced. No setbacks yet for him. I'm not sure. I have not heard if Bradley Chubb and Cameron Good are going to be in the rotation this week or not. I sure hope they are. I think they're going to be ready. The coaches seem optimistic from their press conferences. Time will tell. And as we get near, the game time, I'll put a little short out with the injury updates and see what's happening there. But Alec Ingold has an ankle injury. I would expect him to play. Hopefully he continues and moves up into full practice as we near the end of the week. Raheem Mostert still nursing that hip injury. I'm not sure if he's going to play, or if he does, how much he's going to play. We'll see. Jalen Waddle has a hamstring injury. He'll be fine. Jordan Brooks has a bruised rib. He'll be playing. Blake Ferguson, this non-football illness thing with Blake Ferguson is cracking me up. He's been a full practice participant for 2 weeks now, and they still haven't played him. I'm not sure what's going on there. Linebacker Anthony Walker Jr. has a hamstring injury. It happened last week in the game, but he did finish the game. I would expect him to play this week. And Tyreek Hill, he's full practice participant. I'd expect him to play as well. Obviously, Calais Campbell's always resting. He's an older man and still plays ball at the level he does. He needs to get as much rest as possible. Odell Beckham Jr., he was resting too. I'm not sure what to think about Odell. There's rumors that he's not happy with his involvement in the offense, and it's like, well, catch the balls that get thrown to you when you have your opportunities, and if you do that and you still don't get involved, then complain. But he's had a few drops and hasn't really been involved very much, which it's what it is. There's plenty of people for Tua to throw to, and plenty of people open on every play. So with that, it is what it is. But that's the injury report so far. Like I said, Friday and Saturday when they come along, I'll keep an eye out on it and give some more updates as time goes on. For now, that's it. So let's talk about this game. The Miami Dolphins are 19th in the NFL on offense, gaining 332.5 yards per game. They are 24th in the NFL in points on offense at 20.3 points per game. Passing, we are 14th at 226.5 yards per game. And for rushing, we're 24th. That rushing keeps going down and down and down with the struggles we've had running the ball. Man, I wish that wasn't the case. We're rushing for 105.2 yards a game. Still over 100 yards a game on average, but we've been rushing for about half that the last 4 or 5 games, and it's hurting. So The Texans, their offense is 18th in the NFL with 335.2 yards per game, and they are 14th at 23.7 points per game. Slightly better average wise and stat wise than our offense, but things have changed the last 7 weeks, so we'll see how that ends up working out. Um, Passing, they are 17th at 221.2 yards per game, and rushing, they are 16th at 114 yards per game. For defense, the Houston Texans are 5th in the NFL overall, allowing 308.5 yards per game. For points per game allowed, they are 13th, allowing 22.2. And for passing, they are 7th in the NFL, allowing 198.8 yards per game. And for rushing, they are 10th in the NFL, allowing 109.7 yards per game. For the Dolphins, we are 9th overall, allowing 318.2 yards per game, and 14th overall, allowing 22.5 points per game. Rushing, we're 11th, rushing, we are 7th, allowing 105.6 yards per game. Passing, we are 11th at 212.7 yards per game. Looking at the stats, we're very evenly matched. The Texans have the slight edge overall with the stats and the rankings, but the rankings are so close team to team between the Dolphins and Texans that it's pretty much a wash. Both are middle of the road in almost all categories except for, overall defense, where we're both pretty high up there in the rankings. So this game is pretty much open to interpretation, which is interesting to me. Let's see. There's some things that, obviously concern me, and number one thing that concerns me is our offensive line versus their defensive line. And I feel like this is one of those games where if our offensive line cannot block for the run, then we're going to lose this game. I feel like if I had to pick two parts of our team that absolutely has to step up in this game, it's our offensive line and our safeties. Defensive backs, not just safeties, I suppose, cornerbacks as well. A few of our cornerbacks had a rough game last game. Javon Holland didn't have a great game. Jalen Ramsey had a terrible game. Probably one of his worst games since he's been a Dolphin. Do I expect that to continue? No, not really. It's Jalen Ramsey. He does tend to bounce back when he has subpar games. So that they need to improve play there. And for the offensive line, obviously we haven't been run blocking very well. Kendall Lamb's been out, and that's hurt us a lot in the run game. They really need to step it up. Offensive line, I mean, they've been doing okay with pass blocking, but as far as the run blocking goes, they've been, it's been bad. Now, obviously, very, very happy with Aaron Brewer. Our center he's been doing great. Aside from that, and obviously Teron Armstead is doing fine. Patrick Paul had a great game last week against the Jets, covering for Teron Armstead with his injury. I want that play to continue. Hopefully Teron is back and able to play, and if he's not, Patrick Paul needs to step in and do what he did last week. It's a must. So you watch that in the game, and you watch for what's going to happen there. As far as the safeties go and the cornerbacks, it's pretty obvious. If we get good coverage in the back end, that allows our defensive line time to get home. And obviously by get home, I mean get your hands on Stroud. He's been having a hard time. He's been throwing some interceptions and a couple fumbles here and there. I think that if we can get some pressure on CJ Stroud, this game will be over. I don't think that their offensive line is very good. Actually, I think it's worse than our offensive line is. CJ Stroud is getting sacked a lot. So this is the opportunity for our defensive line to eat. Calais Campbell and Sealer and Ogba and all these guys. If we can get, man, I really hope Cameron Good and Bradley Chubb are back in this game. If they come into this game and are able to contribute, not just coming back, but if they're able to contribute, maybe not every play, but get them on a rotation, if they can do that, then our defensive line and our edge rushers will have major help. And plus, I feel like if we had Calais Campbell, Zach Sealer, Emmanuel Ogba, Cameron Good, Bradley Chubb, and Benito Jones as our defensive line, that's a good defensive line. That's a good front 4 or 5. Well, depending on how you look at it. Good 3, 4, or 5. If we had that, I would have confidence going into this game knowing that we're going to get pressure. And not just get pressure, but get home on CJ Stroud. And that bleeds into a lot of other things if that happens. That helps out the backfield immensely. The back half, the cornerbacks and the defensive backs and our safeties, they'll do so much better if we have that pressure on CJ Stroud. They'll eat too. It's a trickle-down effect. Everything that happens from the line of scrimmage on defense trickles down all the way to the safety. And we need it. We need it in this game. Our defense needs to have a bounce-back game. After what they allowed Brett Favre, after what they allowed Aaron Rodgers to do with the Jets last week, this is the bounce-back game. This needs to change. We can't allow 2 performances like that, really 3 in a row by our defense, because they didn't play particularly well against the Packers. Now, they did, in the Jets game, clean up some of the tackling, but there was still a few missed tackles that bugged the crap out of me. So defense needs to step up. How does that happen? Well, I mean, a good start would be having some of our injured players come back and play on the line of scrimmage. But that's not the only thing. Coaching. They need to do a better job disguising their blitzes, disguising what they're going to do in the backfield before the snap. Now, CJ Stroud cannot recognize and adjust the way that Aaron Rodgers could. He's just not there. He's a smart quarterback, and he can make adjustments on the line of scrimmage pre-snap. But this is setting up for our defense to be able to handle this and be able to get pressure against that offensive line. That sets up our defensive backs and our safeties to have a better time and an easier time covering these receivers. That's going to help our middle linebackers stop the run with good pressure and good edge sealing from our defensive line. Everything goes to the defensive line. So, defensive line and coaching, you got to step it up. Anyway, so let me talk about these keys to victory for our team, for our Miami Dolphins, who have to have this win. On offense, our number one key to victory, solid offensive line play. Our offensive line is weird. They've been doing decent at pass blocking. Part of that is because Tua is so fast to get rid of the ball. He sees an open receiver and bam, it's gone. Takes a 3 or a 5-step drop and bam, it's thrown. The ball is out. So part of it is because of that. Part of it is that they've been playing decent in pass protection. But when it comes to run blocking, our offensive line has been hot garbage. Can't seal. Can't take blocks down the field. Can't get to the second level on blocking. Offensive linemen have got to be able to hit the second level in the NFL. Have to. There's at least 1 or 2 that have to bleed into the second level on run blocking almost every single play. Those big runs that you see for 40, 50, 60, 70 yards, those, not on our team obviously, But that happens when a bunch of offensive linemen get into the secondary, get into the backfield, and continue to take blocks down the field. That's how that happens. It's not all just the fullback. So offensive line has got to step it up. Number 2 for keys to victory for the offense. We've got to run the ball for at least 110 yards. Have to. We're not going to run a ton with the passing game the way it is, with Tua playing the way he is. You play to your strengths. You'd be stupid if you didn't use the passing game, the short passing game, as an extension of the run game. You'd be dumb not to. With how accurate Tua is, you have to be accurate as a quarterback in order to use the short passing game, especially the way we are. So Tua's got to do that. So we're not going to have 30, 40 runs per game. But the runs that we do have, we need to take advantage. And that'll open up more of the passing game in the process. We have to run the ball better. That starts with the offensive line, and it finishes with the running backs. All around, got to run the ball better. So that's the second one. 110 yards, and we're probably going to win this game. If we can get 110 yards rushing, I think we'll win this game. Third key, like I said, Tua needs to be a surgeon again. That stat that I gave about Joe Montana being the only quarterback in NFL history to have 8 games in a row over 70% completion, Tua needs to break that, to tie that record today, or on Sunday. It needs to happen. He needs to be a surgeon, just like he has been. So it's not asking anything of him that he can't do. It needs to happen again. So that's the keys to victory. Solid offensive line play in both the run and pass game. You need to run the ball over 110 yards, at least 100. It needs to happen. I don't care if it's split between 14 running backs. I don't care if 10 running backs have 10 yards each. We need to run the ball. And the last one is Tua needs to be a surgeon. He needs to do what he does, what he's been doing. Keep that crap up, man. For defense, for our keys to victory for our defense, number 1, our safeties need to step up. And I say safeties, but really I mean defensive back room. So safeties and corners all need to step it up. Everything. Tackling, pre-game reads, or pre-snap reads, disguising of coverage, everything. They just need to play smarter. Second, for defense, is the D-line needs to get home on C.J. Stroud. We're playing a weak offensive line. There's no reason we shouldn't. And if we do get home on Stroud, a couple sacks at least, maybe a forced fumble from Sealer, that's his specialty. We need those things in this game. Pressure on C.J. Stroud makes C.J. Stroud throw interceptions. Interceptions will help us, you know. The third thing, I said it, it'll help us. Turnovers. We need turnovers in this game. Has to happen. I'm not saying C.J. Stroud needs to throw 5 interceptions, but we need to pick him off once. Maybe make him fumble the ball once. We need turnovers on defense. We need to get to the ball in a hurry with a lot of players. I want to see Dolphins all over the ball carrier. Every play. If we have that, we're going to win this game. This is a good Texans team. They are a good team. They're struggling in certain ways, but what team isn't? I've laid out what I think needs to happen in order for us to be victorious against Houston in Houston. Will it happen? I think it will. But I don't know for sure. Obviously, I'm not, I don't have a crystal ball. Well, I don't have one that works. But I do think Miami wins this game, especially if they do some of the things in those keys to victory. The way to win. That's it. And I'm not the only one that's going to be saying these things. I'm sure there's plenty of other Dolphins YouTubers that are sitting there watching this going, yep. Miami Dolphins win 34-27. That's my prediction. 34-27. 34 is a number that Miami has liked to score a lot lately. They've been over 30 points almost all their games since Tua's been back. They're playing well, and they need to continue what they're doing on offense. They just need to run the ball a little better. And that starts with our offensive line. So this is that game where the offensive line, everything is going to go the way of our offensive line and our defensive line. We have to win this game, guys. We have to. If we don't win this game, the season is over. The best we could do if we lose this game is 9-8. And that's assuming that we win every other game. We have to win this game and then move on to the next one. But right now, we have the Texans. Have to win. 34-27, that's my prediction. Let's look at these other games. There's a few that we need to look at that are going to be happening next week that could affect us. So the first thing that we got to look at here, and it's a big one. The Denver Broncos are at home against the Indianapolis Colts. Now this game, you can look at this a couple different ways. Number one, Denver is ahead of us by 2 games. The Colts are actually ahead of us by I think half a game. A game. The Colts are going to colt. They're going to lose a game between now and the end of the season. This game they're playing Denver. The rest of their schedule for the Colts isn't really that hard. So I'm kind of torn here because I want Denver to lose one of those 2 games that they need to lose. They have a difficult schedule coming up. They still have to play the Chargers and the Chiefs, and I think that Denver could win this game against the Colts, knock the Colts behind us, assuming we win, of course. Got to take care of our business, Miami. But if we win and Denver beats Indianapolis, that puts the Colts behind us in the pecking order. And that puts us right on the outside of the playoffs, which is right where we need to be at the end of this week. So what I'm suggesting is that we root for Denver to beat Indianapolis, because Indianapolis has a relatively easy schedule going forward. And even with that easy schedule, I could see you wanting to root for them, for Indy to win, because Indianapolis, I don't see them winning 4 games straight to end the season. So it's up to you guys. I'm personally going to root for Denver to beat the Colts. Go ahead and get them behind us. Take care of the Colts. Get them out of the options. And then we focus on Denver and a couple other teams losing some games. So that first game, I'm rooting for Denver to beat Indy at home. Now, moving on through these games, we have a couple more that we should be looking at. The next game that we should look at here is Los Angeles. The Chargers are at home against Tampa Bay. This game, I could see Tampa Bay going into Los Angeles and winning that game. That's what I'm going to be rooting for. Am I sure it's going to happen? No. But if we can get the Chargers to lose games, put it this way: if the Chargers and the Broncos and the Colts and the Ravens lose a bunch of games here at the end of the season, we could find ourselves in the 5th seed. How crazy is that? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just giving you guys options here. So I'm going to root for Tampa Bay to beat the Chargers. That's the second game that we should be watching. The third game is Baltimore playing New York at home. Baltimore's traveling to play the Giants. And I know this game is probably going to be a drubbing. Baltimore's probably going to smoke the New York Giants. But if the Giants could somehow win that game, that would bump Baltimore down to within a game of us. Another one that could just be huge for the playoff chances for Miami. The more teams that we have at 8-6 at the end of this week, the better. The more teams we have lose these games down the stretch that are ahead of us, that are already in a playoff spot, that helps us. Right now, since we need help getting into the playoffs, we need teams to lose. So we should want as many teams as are on that list to lose as possible. So teams that we should be looking for to lose, man, it really should be the team that we play this week. And not just this week. We should want Houston to lose a bunch of games. Houston, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Colts. We only need the Colts to lose one game, and then if we do what we're supposed to do as Dolphins, if the Dolphins win out, like they have to win out. So I'm looking at all this under the guise that the Dolphins win every game. I know it's a lot to look at, a lot to ask. But if the Dolphins win out, the Colts can't pass us if they lose this week to Denver. That's why I'm looking at it that way. Because Denver could lose a couple games still coming up after this. They got a tough schedule. A couple division games too. So that's what we're looking at, guys. Ultimately, Dolphins need to win. So that's what we should be rooting for first and foremost. If we lose this game, it's over. A 9-8 team is not going to make the playoffs for the AFC. It's not going to happen. So, with that covers it. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you for coming and listening and just visiting my channel. I appreciate it very much. Throw a like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. I'm probably going to be on Ace Per Head with Curtis for the live stream tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Alaska time, which is where I'm at. So I think that's 7 on the Pacific on the West Coast. Make sure to check that out if you want. Curtis is an awesome dude, and he's got a lot of information. So looking forward to that tomorrow again. Let's see, anything else that I got? Nope, that's it. Fins up. Have a great weekend. We'll see you later.